When it comes to working with our energetic body and our chakras, just like building a balanced tower of rocks, we want to have that strong, stable foundation started at the bottom to make everything we are balancing above it more stable. Just like if we were to have a chair that was missing a leg, we're going to wobble, as where when we have a stable foundation, everything that comes above or after it is always going to be easier, stronger, better. Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. I really got inspired to talk about these lower chakras today because they are literally the foundation of everything we do, not just in a spiritual way, but in a 3D foundational way. There are 3D foundational things that we can do with our chakras that, because mind, body, and spirit are all interconnected so deeply that one affects the other. So there is no one or the other. They blend into each other, where, especially when it comes to the lower chakras, there is no telling which is affecting which is why so often I come across, even in myself, these moments where I'm like, oh, why aren't these things working in my life? Do I need to clear or cleanse something? And the answer is no. I need to get back into that grounded 3D reality of making sure that the practical things are taken care of. And so when we get practiced with and at balancing our energies, things like creativity, sexuality, success in whatever it is you want, all gets easier because we've done this lower chakra work. Now, until we've really strengthened them, they are going to fall out of balance really easily. But like I said, we have this tendency to divide spirituality and the spirit realms and the 3D realms, but they're all deeply interconnected. So though it might not always be fun, looking at those very practical 3D things that you would associate with the stability of the lower chakras is really an important practice to strengthen energetically your lower chakras, because it's one of those cycles that they all feed on each other. There is no telling where one ends and the other begins. It's often that the lower chakras end up out of balance, not because there's something energetically that you can do, but something practically that you're not doing. I've really noticed this a lot in my life a year ago when I was struggling with things in a stability sort of way. When it comes to this lower chakra energy, one of the things that we don't realize is that we've kind of been traumatized a little bit, or conditioned or programmed in a way that's not beneficial to us when it comes to pop culture that has become this like drastic pendulum swing too far out, that started with the free love movement in the 60s, and then as well that sort of power culture movement that happened starting in the 80s and the 90s, especially around women's empowerment, where, we have this, again, sort of sex meets power dynamic that is not beneficial to us, let alone the stability of our lower chakras and that energy. There's this quote from Guru Jagat, which, I've been talking about her a lot. I've been actually studying her for a long time, but I just don't talk about things until I've really spent a decent amount of time with it. I did this with dōTERRA. I've learned this in a big way from watching Teal Swan. You want to observe things before you speak out on them. So it might seem like I'm all of a sudden talking about her because I am all of a sudden bringing it up, but I've been following her for a long time, watching her, using her as one of my spiritual guides before and after or since she's passed away. And I was listening to her talk today in one of the Rama TV videos, and she says that ultimately, especially, with this sex power dynamic thing, it shouldn't be something that takes up too much of your time. I watch people in the spiritual community really get into this idea of sex magic and tantra and just exploring their sexuality. But as Guru Jagat says, sex should be a relaxation, or is a relaxation, not a communication. And she talks about how a lot of the time we experience, because of this pop culture and power culture sort of traumatization we have, people get obsessed with sex because we relate it with this power dynamic. And she was talking about how this becomes something that people, when their lower chakras are out of balance, it becomes this power struggle. And she even goes so far as to call it, these perversions. And they don't need to be that way. When the lower chakras are energetically clean, clear, and in balance, especially around sex and sexuality, it becomes, as Wayne Dyer breaks it down, spiritual equals in spirit, inspired. Spiritual sex is something that becomes this love energy rather than this power dynamic that, as Guru Jagat says, becomes this very perverse thing. And so understanding that in any interaction whatsoever, there are going to be receptive and penetrative energies happening. When we can just relax in the knowing of this, we can allow ourselves to let the sexual energy that comes with the lower chakras sort of simmer down and come at it too from this place of love rather than this place of lust and power that we have sort of been traumatized and programmed into thinking have to go hand in hand. So when it comes to things like finances and stability in the success and creative areas, this looks like, again, very practical things like cleaning up your energy around money on a physical level, on a 3D level, on a personal development level. This looks like having tools for whether it be finances or your own personal health, tools, skills, and habits that support you in whatever it is you're doing, whether that be, having a financial advisor, or learning how to do things with your money on your own, or having a therapist or a coach or a counselor, or making sure that you have all the tools around supporting your health physically. All the things, anything that contributes to your stability or lack of it in a practical way is working with lower chakra energy. I'm laughing at myself right now in my head, watching myself do this as many times as I have in this video. So sometimes, especially as spiritually centered human beings, we get caught up in this spiritual, airy, woo-woo, when sometimes we have to bring ourselves back down to the 3D world. Sometimes energetically, that's not how we deal with the energy. Sometimes it's not about meditation. Sometimes it's not about chanting. Sometimes it's about getting into the nitty-gritty of the 3D world and looking what you need to do there on a very practical level to clean up the energetic leaks that way. And So there's all sorts of stuff you can do around that, as I call it, building the tools, skills, and habits for a happy, healthy life, to make life, as I say, kinder and simpler. So if you're feeling out of balance, I've even felt out of balance energetically, moving from this Piscean to the Aquarian age. Now that we're really settling into the Aquarian age, we're finally feeling that relief, being able to relax in that exhale of the deep breaths we were just taking before experiencing that transition. So it's been rocky. It's been rocky in any age whatsoever, or rather in any age transition whatsoever. There's this instability that you see. They talk about it when they talk about things like the Atlanteans and how the Atlanteans fell. They talk about it when it comes to the Egyptians moving from the age of Leo into the age of Pisces. We are in this very massive energetic shift right now on a spiritual and on a practical level, because there is no telling where one ends and one begins. They all they all interconnect with each other on a deep level. They're, as I say, mind, body, and spirit are the mind, body, and spirit. I call them the Holy Trinity of health for a reason, and because they are all interconnected so deeply, they all affect each other so deeply, that sometimes it's not about doing the woo-woo stuff. As much as I love the woo-woo stuff, sometimes it's about doing the practical stuff. We all have the opportunity to prepare ourselves. And even I wasn't totally prepared for the shift that we've been experiencing. I was in some ways, but I wasn't in others. And so this instability we've been feeling, luckily that's lightening at this point. We are finally being able to groove with the new energy flow. But it was rocky there for a bit, even for me, as many tools as I have. And there's no shame in admitting that. We're all going to have mistakes. And so just always aiming to sort of have those mistakes moving you upwards, as Guru Jagat calls it, failing upwards. We all have an opportunity to be learning and growing, not being too hard on ourselves for what we're experiencing that is out of our control. Because what we're experiencing is not always in our control. How we react to the experiences is in our control, but the experiences moving and shifting and going on around us are not always in our control. And so being able to, I came up with this metaphor today, talking on Instagram, where it's always going to be easier going down a rushing river in a boat with a paddle rather than free floating without even a life vest. In watching this back in the editing process, I was thinking about how sometimes in the spiritual community, in the spiritual message, we get this sense that we're supposed to be like, free floating down the river, no kayak, no boat, no paddle, just like loving it as we bump against the rocks and like not acknowledging the fact that it hurts. That's not the deal. That's not the deal. We're not just allowed, we are encouraged to find our boat, get our paddles, so that we can be free floating down the river going, loving it, bumping against the rocks, but we're insulated by the boat. That's what the spiritual practice, that's what the shadow work is for, to be there. The practical things are for, to be there as the boat and the paddle. And it's not about not acknowledging emotions. It's not about not having emotions. Our emotions are important tools. It's about how we deal with things. It's about having moments where I'm struggling to find the word, respond rather than react. That's what I was looking for. It's about learning to respond rather than react. And it's about learning how to direct our responses in a way in which allows us to move forward with a discerned action forward rather than an autopilot, no boat, moving through life just getting beat up. Like we're just supposed to take punches in the face and say, thank you, may I have another, without feeling anything at all. And that's just not the deal. Not only are we not trying to get rid of our emotions, like we're not trying to get rid of our ego. I talked about this the other night. It's not about ego death. It's not about killing our emotions or not having them. It's about getting to a place of neutrality so that we can then experience our emotions without the drama of living on autopilot with them, where we're reacting. We're in this reactionary state all the time. You know, we can consciously and mindfully choose our boat, choose our paddles, and then consciously and mindfully choose how, when we experience emotion, we're going to handle them, to deal with them, to address them, to clear them, and to move forward through responsive action rather than reactive chaos. So making sure that we have those tools that help us move through this flow easier on a practical level as well as an energetic level is important. And so I just wanted to put that out there for everybody, because I know even I got caught up in it for a little while, even all of the other spiritual teachers that I follow and that I learn from. We've all talked about this stage we go through where we're sitting there going, why is this not working out for us? And it's because we were too focused on that upper chakra energy and the woo, when what we needed to get back to was that grounding and that lower chakra, practical 3D stuff. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me for another video. I still have 3 spots left for anyone who would like to work with me. I have the workshop coming up on Patreon here towards the end of the week, Magic in Real Life. So if you're not a Patreon member yet and you'd like to get in on this live workshop that I do with the Q&A afterwards, you can join us on Patreon. All the links in the description, always. The bi-monthly energy update just came out on Patreon. Scanning through my brain, is there anything else? No, I think that's it. All right, guys. May the energies you serve you well. Let's keep making our way through. And I'll see you in the next one.